Imagine a world where a single drop of blood could change the course of medicine, disrupt the entire healthcare industry, and make you a billionaire overnight. Now, what if I told you this story wasn't just a wild dream, but a gripping, real-life roller coaster that had the world at the edge of its seat? Get ready to be shocked, intrigued, and emotionally gripped as we delve into the saga of Theranos. This is a video that shakes the very foundation of trust, ambition, and innovation in the healthcare world. Theranos, the rise and fall of a health tech unicorn.
The world works in certain ways until a new great idea comes along and changes everything.
First, how was Theranos formed, and who is the founder? The founder of Theranos is Elizabeth Holmes. She was born on February 3, 1984 in Washington, D.C. Her mom, Noelle, was a congressional committee staffer, and her dad, Christian Holmes, worked for Enron before moving to government agencies like you said. Holmes' family moved a lot when she was young, from Washington, D.C. to Houston. At the age of 9, she wrote a letter to her father. "What I really want out of life is to discover something new, something that mankind didn't know was possible to do." And when she became a teenager, Holmes started her own business. She sold C++ compilers, a type of software that translates computer code to Chinese schools. She was greatly inspired by her great-great-grandfather, Christian Holmes, a surgeon, to go into medicine, but she discovered she was terrified of needles. Later, this would influence her to start Theranos. Moreover, she went to Stanford to study chemical engineering. When she was a freshman, she became a President's Scholar, an honor which came with a $3,000 stipend to go toward a research project. She had a normal life, but she could never expect what having a big dream could cost her. She spent the summer after her freshman year interning at the Genome Institute in Singapore. She got the job partly because she spoke Mandarin, which she learned as a teenager. As a sophomore, she went to one of her professors, Channing Robertson, and said, "Let's start a company." With this blessing, she founded Real-Time Cures, later changing the company's name to Theranos. Holmes soon filed a patent application for a wearable device that would administer medication, monitor patients' blood, and adjust the dosage as needed, and by the next semester, she had dropped out of Stanford altogether, working on Theranos in the basement of a college house. Shortly after Holmes dropped out of Stanford at age 19, she started dating Theranos president and COO Sunny Balwani, who was 20 years her senior. However, the pair broke up when Holmes pushed him out of the company. By 2004, Theranos raised $6.9 million in early funding, gaining a $30 million valuation, and in 2007, the company's valuation hit $197 million after it raised another $43.2 million in early round funding. After further rounds of funding, Theranos was valued at $1 billion, and after a decade of working in the dark, Holmes introduced Theranos to the world via press appearances and unveiled a website. With over $400 million in funding, Theranos was valued at nearly $9 billion. Holmes effectively became a multi-billionaire thanks to her 50% stake. Despite her company's hefty valuation, Holmes remained tight-lipped on how exactly Theranos' technology worked, and it became known that the technology had never been submitted for peer review in medical journals. As Theranos started to rake in millions of funding, Holmes became the subject of media attention and acclaim in the tech world. She graced the covers of Fortune and Forbes, gave a TED Talk, and spoke on panels with Bill Clinton and Alibaba's Jack Ma. Theranos quickly began securing outside partnerships. Capital Blue Cross and Cleveland Clinic signed on to offer Theranos tests to their patients, and Walgreens made a deal to open Theranos' testing centers. Theranos also formed a secret partnership with Safeway worth $350 million. At one point, Holmes was the world's youngest self-made female billionaire with a net worth of around $4.5 billion. Around the same time, questions were being raised about Theranos' technology. Ian Gibbons, the chief scientist at Theranos and one of the company's first hires, warned Holmes that the tests weren't ready for the public to take and that there were inaccuracies in the technology. That obsession with secrecy extended to every aspect of Theranos. For the first decade, Holmes spent building her company. Theranos operated in stealth mode. She even took 3 former Theranos employees to court, claiming they had misused Theranos trade secrets. But it was later known that Theranos was running its samples through the same machines used by traditional blood testing companies. Outside scientists began voicing their concerns about Theranos too. By August 2015, the FDA began investigating Theranos, and regulators from the government body that oversees laboratories found major inaccuracies in the testing Theranos was doing on patients. By October 2015, Wall Street Journal reporter John Carreyrou published his investigation into Theranos' struggles with its technology. Carreyrou's reporting sparked the beginning of the company's downward spiral. However, Holmes didn't take it lightly. She appeared on CNBC's Mad Money to defend herself and her company. This is what happens when you work to change things. And first, they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden, you change the world, Holmes said. By 2016, the FDA, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and SEC were all keen on Theranos. In July 2016, Holmes was banned from the lab testing industry for 2 years. By October, Theranos had shut down lab operations and wellness centers. At the beginning of 2016, a letter released by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, stated that a California-based lab used by Theranos caused immediate jeopardy to patient health and safety. CMS gave the company 10 days to correct the deficiencies or face daily fines and/or loss of CMS approval for Medicare payments. The Wall Street Journal then followed with a highly critical report on Theranos. Based on interviews with ex-employees, the newspaper alleged rampant management incompetence and claimed that Theranos had grossly exaggerated the capabilities of its technology. One former senior employee stated that only a small fraction of all the tests were conducted on the machines, and the majority of tests were handled on competitors' equipment despite Theranos' claims to the contrary. It didn't end there. The FDA then released 2 more reports from its ongoing investigation into Theranos. They were less than favorable and claimed that Theranos had uncleared medical devices, poor records, was mishandling complaints, and had failed to conduct audits and produce supplier qualifications. With regards to an unspecified medical device, an investigator noted the design was not validated under actual or simulated use conditions. Further, Theranos failed to ensure the device conforms to defined user needs and intended uses. Theranos was slammed with lawsuits from all corners, but after a couple of years of settled lawsuits, dissolved relationships with big partners such as Walgreens, and broken deals with the likes of Safeway, in March 2018, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, formally charged Theranos, Holmes, and former company president Ramesh Sunny Balwani with massive fraud. The complaint alleged that the company raised more than $700 million by deceiving investors for years about the company's performance. Holmes agreed to give up financial and voting control of the company, pay a $500,000 fine, and return 18.9 million shares of Theranos' stock. Both Theranos and Holmes agreed to settle the fraud charges pending court approval.
Elizabeth Holmes, once Silicon Valley's fastest rising star, is now under the harsh glare of a very different kind of spotlight.
Ms. Holmes, please raise your right hand.
She's finally forced to answer to the Securities and Exchange Commission as she's investigated for an alleged elaborate, years-long fraud.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Suddenly, the woman who always seemed to have all the answers.
We are the only lab company that is actually really focused on leading with transparency.
Now had none.
I don't know specifically. I'm not sure. I don't know exactly. I just don't know.
Holmes lost control of the company, returned millions of shares, and was barred from serving as an officer or director of a public company for 10 years. Furthermore, Balwani and Holmes were both sued for multiple counts of fraud, and in January 2022, Holmes was convicted of 3 charges to commit wire fraud and 1 charge of conspiracy to commit wire fraud in essence. Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes was found guilty of 4 out of 11 fraud charges. Later that year, Balwani was convicted of 6 counts of defrauding investors, 4 counts of defrauding patients, and 2 counts of conspiring to commit fraud. Balwani was sentenced to 12 years and 11 months in federal prison, while Holmes received 11 years and 3 months. After several efforts to delay her sentence through appeals, Holmes finally reported to federal prison camp Bryan in southern Texas in 2023. Elizabeth Holmes might have tried to fake it till she made it, but as we've seen, that strategy didn't quite draw blood in the end. As we conclude this gripping journey through the rise and fall of Theranos, it's a stark reminder that even the most promising dreams can crumble. But it's also a testament to the power of truth and transparency in the face of deception. Now it's your turn. If you enjoyed this journey and want to explore more incredible stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support helps us to continue uncovering the most fascinating stories that shape our world.